Olympics, but when he has gone into the transfer market, he's done well. I mean, I think Van der Ven, one of the best centre-backs in the Premier League. He's fantastic, isn't he? And Maddison, let's not forget Maddison's early season form before he got injured. He was a shoo-in for the Euros, shoo-in for probably Player of the Year, and then he got injured, and obviously it came off a little bit. So, I mean, he's good in the market as well, is Postecoglou at spotting talent.
Absolutely, Addy, and I've said this before on TalkSport that the likes of Vicario, Udogie, Van der Ven, not many people in England knew of these players. So when I talk about recruitment, in the last 12 months, 18 months or so, the club have been bang on it in terms of recruitment. But a lot has changed, not only on the pitch but off the pitch as well, in terms of personnel coming in and changing at the football club. So.
Watching the Sevens footage that the production team have very kindly put on a big screen for us here in the studio, which is lovely. Now, some of the team sports are underway, like this is Rugby Sevens. We talked about that. The football's underway already. We're hearing some drama there with Sani in the sport, won't we? Now, Paris 2024 is going to be probably the most technologically advanced games yet. And they could demonstrate how advancements in AI or virtual reality is going to change how elite sporting events are both staged and consumed. So earlier on I told you that we had someone with the best job title in the world on the programme, and so let's get Professor Andy Meyer on the line now, who's Chair of Science and Communication and Future Media at the University of Salford, or more excitedly known as a futurologist. Am I saying that right, Andy?
That's pretty close, Stefan. Thank you very much. Great to be here.
I mean, how often, can I just, before we get into the meat of the thing, how often do you just introduce yourself at parties and hi, don't mind me, I'm Andy, a futurologist?
As infrequently as possible, Stefan.
Not the coolest thing to do, isn't it? Yeah, it would be embarrassing. Anyway, so let's talk about this Olympics then, and how they are different technology-wise. Are you talking from the way we consume the Olympics, or in the way the Olympics are held and run themselves, or is it a bit of both?
Well, Stefan, it's really everything. Back in April, the IOC launched its Olympic AI agenda, which was just underpinning all those currents of technological change that are happening, both in Paris, but more widely. And it's the athletes, it's the spectators, it's the broadcasters, the entire infrastructure is being transformed by technology. It's always been that way. The Olympics has always been a place where they've pioneered new technology, but I think in a kind of post-COVID AI world, it's just gone to the next level this year.
Yeah, AI is such a catch-all term, though, isn't it, in terms of like the types of technology, the types of things it can do. So, sort of practically speaking, what does that mean for this Games?
Well, I think one of the most fun stories I've seen already was the introduction of athletes to their Olympic beds, which have been designed by AI. You might have heard about these anti-intimacy beds, which have been designed bespoke to be made out of cardboard, sufficient for one person, but perhaps not two. But that's certainly one example of quite mundane use of it. But I think also in broadcasting, it's just transforming how they think about and provide coverage for athletes, but also the spectators too.
We know obviously that social media is big on any sporting event. This is certainly true of the Olympics. Is this the beginning, or are we going to see essentially now how sporting events like this are going to be consumed in the future? It's not going to be on telly like we used to watch it. We sit down on Saturday night and watch that evening's athletics or whatever. Is it going to be different now? And are we starting to see the beginnings of that?
Well, certainly the beginnings will take place on Friday with the opening ceremony, where part of the opening ceremony will be broadcast through a mobile phone. So Samsung, one of the big partners of the Olympic Games, is going to share close-up personal stories of the athletes as they arrive into the opening ceremony. So certainly I see the beginnings of that, but also Team GB is sponsored by TikTok this year, so we're seeing lots of content come out of athletes already at the Games. A lot of the behind-the-scenes stuff, I think that's what people are really excited by, trying to see stories they haven't seen before, and that mobile experience will be a big part of that delivery for sure.
Yeah, and how much of this stuff, or the changes that we're seeing, though, Andy, are sort of not around the edges, but around sort of, people's relationship with those who are competing and how we consume it. But in terms of actually the product itself, I suppose that hasn't changed arguably in hundreds of years. So, I mean, that won't ultimately change that much.
Well, it's a really good question, because just yesterday in Paris, the International Olympic Committee announced the creation of the Olympic Esports Games, which will take place for the first time next year in Saudi Arabia. So they are mindful of how the sports are evolving. We have breakdancing taking place in the Paris Games this year. We have climbing taking place. So they are evolving the sports. And I think that relationship between digital and physical is a big part of that. Ultimately, they need to bring sports to where the young people in the world are participating. I think that digital participation aspect is a huge factor in that.
Yeah.
And another big thing that was launched yesterday was the Olympic Roblox world. So I think we are seeing that evolution of sports. esports through digital, and I think certainly athletes are really responding to that with a lot of enthusiasm.
And it's interesting, isn't it? Because you'd think that would be, you talked about the tie-up with esports in future. You'd think that would be a no-brainer, and that people who are into their esports would welcome that. But it's interesting, actually, the Olympics needs esports probably more than esports needs the Olympics, because that announcement hasn't necessarily gone down well with people who like their League of Legends and Counter-Strike and these other competitive video games that people play. Has it, Andy? It's almost a thing that the Olympics needs to maintain its relevance with the future generations, rather than necessarily the other way around.
I think that's absolutely right. It's been a really long journey to get the Olympic world to recognise the value of esports as a competitive practice, as an athletic practice, and that's really turned, I think, in the last couple of years, where those people that were saying they weren't too sure about it 5 years ago now see absolutely the value. And part of that will be financial. It'll be the companies that are producing the streaming platforms that allow them to develop into gaming environments, but a big part of it is the culture shift. But also recognising that actually, if we want to make sure the young people of the world have a healthy future, bringing those environments closer together is a critical part of that. Otherwise, sports will lose young players to gaming, and that's a big factor, I think, in that process.
Yeah. And so how do you feel about, I'm not going to do the crystal ball joke, Andy, because you've heard it a million times, haven't you? It would be quite, it'd be an obvious joke to make, so I'm not going to make it. But if you were to look to the future as a futurologist, how do you get the sense that the Olympics is making these changes? Do you feel like it's catching up with the digital nature of the future, or is it a bit behind? Because we know that, for example, big institutions, big organisations, people who have traditional big cultural sporting footprints have been slow to catch up, and actually are now trying to make changes dramatically to maintain that relevance with younger audiences. How do you feel like the Olympics is doing? Because we're about to see, in a few days' time, exactly how they're approaching it. But do you think that that it's been successful, all these changes that they're proposing?
Well, certainly part of the IOC President Thomas Bach's mission has been to allow the Olympics to evolve as part of the IOC agenda for reform. They have said change or be changed, and I think we've seen examples of that already with something like 3-on-3 basketball, evolving the game of basketball to make it relevant for younger people. So I think if sports continue to do that, then we'll see new versions of it, but also new kinds of sports that bring together those physical and digital. So my prediction would be we'd see a lot more of those hybrid sports in the Olympic Games in the future, but partly because actually the integration of those worlds is actually the optimal experience. So having physical and digital brought together is a fantastically new and exciting way of thinking about sports.
Well, Andy, the man with the best job title in the UK. Thank you very much for joining us. It's fascinating to chat to you. That was Professor Andy Meir there, who was Chair of Science and Communication and Future Media at the University of Salford, also an Olympics futurologist.
By the way, you wanted to know if anyone could top that job title.
Yeah, has anybody texted us?
Well, I love this from Dave in Southampton, who kind of wins, but he says, I'm a retiredologist.
That's good.
It is good, isn't it?
Yeah, very good. Probably.
Imagine, by the way, I was thinking, listen to that, like VR, imagine like swimmers, if they had on their goggles, like VR cameras, and you were like diving into the pool with them and you experienced the race like that.
Can I take 12% of that idea if you sort of go market that?
And the rest of the nation, I've just told it to. Yeah. Anyway, we are almost done on Drive, but we are going to squeeze into the next just under 15 minutes some talk of staggering, eye-watering prices to see Sabrina Carpenter live. The price of tickets, which some of you are texting us about because your children are asking for them, and also a cocaine-addled shark, or many of them, as it were, that have been found and tested in the oceans of Brazil. But now, first, Kelly Cates, hello, seizing the reins for 5 Live in 13 minutes time from 7, and you're in Paris. Tell us why.
I'm in Paris because this is where the Olympics is happening.
Absolutely.
So I've decided to make my way over. I tell you what I can't do. I can't predict the future in the same way as your previous guest, or certainly not predict the future in the long term. But we are going to look ahead to everything that's going to be happening here at the Olympics as our previews continue. We're actually underway. We've had men's rugby sevens. We've had all kinds of drama in the opening football matches. We'll bring you up to date with everything that's happened there. Got all the news then of everything that's been happening from 7 till 7:30. Then Eleanor Oldroyd comes on. She's going to be joined by Olympic bronze medalist Catherine Merry and Stephen Parry. They'll count down to the top 10 moments for British Olympians since the turn of the millennium. Then at 9 o'clock, it's track and field legends and some stars who are chasing chasing Olympic gold in Paris. That's part of 5 Live's All About Olympics series. And then at 10 o'clock, we're going to go with Team USA's from 2012. I just think anything that's on Super Saturday, I don't know if maybe it's just the build-up of everything. Do you know what, though? I do think, given this is going to be Andy Murray's last Olympics, I think Andy Murray winning Olympic gold, it just to win it at Wimbledon as well, and to get that victory was just so special for him, and set him on the path to go to Wimbledon glory. So I think I'm going to go for that one. I'm going to go for the sentimental vote.
Yeah, and do you know what? It wins every time. I think it's a moment where people remember where they were if they were watching it. Kelly is going to be on 5 Live Sport from 7 o'clock right here, so you don't need to be going anywhere.
BBC Radio 5 Live, the voice of the UK. On digital radio, on BBC Sounds.
And ask your smart speakers
To play BBC Radio 5 Live.
5 Live Drive.
Listen on BBC Sounds.
I know I have good judgment. I know I have good taste. It's funny and it's
Do you think people will just find a way to avoid it anyway, or whether they won't just